Listen and speak.
It was a cold, foggy evening when Sam and his best friend, Alex, decided to take a walk through the old part of town. They had heard rumors about a strange, abandoned house at the end of Maple Street, but no one in the town ever dared to go near it. People said it was haunted. They said strange noises could be heard at night, and shadows moved on their own. Sam, always the adventurous one, turned to Alex and said, "Let's check it out." "I don't believe in ghosts." Alex wasn't so sure. "Maybe we should just go home. You know how people talk about that place." But Sam had already made up his mind. "Come on, it'll be fun. Besides, what's the worst that could happen?" Reluctantly, Alex followed Sam as they made their way down Maple Street. The houses around them were old, with paint peeling off and windows covered in dust. As they got closer to the mysterious house, the street became eerily quiet. No birds were singing, no cars drove by, and the fog seemed to thicken around them. When they finally reached the house, they stopped in front of the rusty iron gate. The house was tall and dark, with broken windows and ivy climbing up its walls. The front door hung slightly open, creaking as the wind pushed it back and forth. "Are you sure about this?" Alex whispered. Sam grinned. "Don't be scared. It's just an old house." They pushed open the gate, which groaned loudly, and slowly walked up the cracked stone path leading to the front door. With each step, Alex felt his heart beat faster. The house loomed over them, as if it were watching their every move. When they reached the door, Sam pushed it open wider. The inside of the house was just as dark and eerie as the outside. Dust covered the floors, and old, broken furniture was scattered around the room. A staircase led up to the second floor, its steps creaking as they cautiously walked inside. Suddenly, they heard a faint noise coming from upstairs. It sounded like footsteps. Alex froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Sam nodded, but he didn't look scared. "It's probably just the wind," he said, though his voice was quieter than before. The footsteps came again, louder this time. Sam grabbed a flashlight from his backpack and pointed it toward the staircase. "Let's check it out," he said. Alex wanted to leave, but he didn't want Sam to think he was afraid. So, together, they carefully climbed the stairs. The old wood groaned under their feet, and with each step, the air seemed to grow colder. At the top of the stairs, they found themselves in a long hallway with doors on either side. The footsteps had stopped, but now they could hear a faint whispering sound coming from one of the rooms at the far end of the hall. "Who's there?" Sam called out, his voice echoing down the hallway. There was no answer, just the whispering, growing louder and more urgent. Sam motioned for Alex to follow him as they walked toward the last door. When they reached it, Sam slowly turned the doorknob. The door creaked open, and they stepped inside. The room was small, with a single window that was cracked open. The cold wind blew through, making the curtains flutter. But what caught their attention was an old, wooden chest in the middle of the room. It looked out of place, as if someone had just left it there. "What do you think is inside?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. "Only one way to find out," Sam said. He knelt down and began to open the chest. It was heavy, and the lid creaked as it slowly lifted. Inside, they found a stack of old papers, a dusty photograph, and a strange-looking key. The photograph showed a man standing in front of the house, but his face was scratched out. On the back of the photo, there was a note written in shaky handwriting: "He watches from the shadows. Don't stay too long." "What does that mean?" Alex asked, feeling a chill run down his spine. Before Sam could answer, they heard the door to the room slam shut behind them. Both boys jumped, turning to see the door was now locked. The whispering had returned, louder than ever, filling the room. It was coming from all directions, as if the walls themselves were speaking. "We need to get out of here," Alex said, panic rising in his voice. Sam grabbed the key from the chest and ran to the door, trying to unlock it. But the key didn't fit. The whispering grew louder, and the shadows in the room seemed to move, creeping closer to the boys. "There's something in here with us," Alex shouted, backing away from the shadows that seemed to stretch toward them. Sam looked around, his face pale. "I don't know what's going on, but we need to find another way out." Just then, they heard the sound of footsteps again, this time coming down the hallway outside the door. But these footsteps weren't faint, they were heavy and slow, as if someone was approaching. Sam and Alex exchanged a terrified glance. "Who's there?" Sam shouted. There was no answer, only the footsteps getting closer and closer. "We're trapped," Alex cried. "What do we do?" Sam frantically looked around the room, his flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. His eyes landed on the window. "We can climb out the window," he said, running toward it. But just as they reached the window, the door to the room burst open, and a dark figure stood in the doorway. The figure was tall, dressed in tattered clothes, and its face was hidden in shadow. "Run!" Sam yelled. Both boys scrambled to the window and climbed out onto the roof. They could hear the figure moving closer inside the room. Without thinking, they jumped from the roof, landing hard on the ground below. Pain shot through Alex's leg, but he forced himself to stand. They didn't look back. They ran as fast as they could, through the fog, past the rusty gate, and down Maple Street, not stopping until they were far from the house. Breathing heavily, they finally slowed down, their hearts racing. "What was that?" Alex panted, looking back toward the house, now barely visible in the distance. Sam shook his head. "I don't know, but we're never going back." From that day on, they never spoke of the house again. But late at night, when the wind howled and the fog rolled in, Sam sometimes thought he could still hear the whispering, and the footsteps that followed.